It is time to do the damn thing. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the 2026 Mentorship by Galaxy Trading. This is our fourth year running our mentorship, and inside this year's mentorship, there is a lot for everybody. Traders who are brand new, traders who have been around for quite some time, who are looking to take that final step, and even those who have taken that next step and are looking to get better every single day, regardless of where they currently stand. So inside this mentorship, I built this very strategically over the last couple of years, where each mentorship is valuable in its own right, and it puts a little bit more of a focal point on everything that we've done historically. So if we were to take a look back, 2023 was the year of discipline for our group, right? That was our inaugural year. And discipline meaning our basic raw structure and showing up when it sucked, right? This is about coming to the table day after day. Sometimes you get punched in the face. How do you respond? Will you respond, right? Little things like that, building a discipline for what we're doing here is something that is absolutely necessary to take the next step in trading. Now we head into 2024, where the year was accountability. Accountability is owning the results and stop making excuses for yourself, right? So not only are we pairing the structure and just showing up and being there, being active, going through content when necessary, studying charts, studying the models, right? The accountability is owning the results and not making excuses for yourself, right? Once you become fully responsible for what you are doing, that's only going to help you in the long term, as you will finally be able to attack with confidence, right? If you don't have confidence, you're probably not going to do all that well with this, right? And you're going to have a lot more confidence if you believe deep down that you've done what is necessary to be in a position of success, right? Think about it. If you spend time the night before taking care of business, going through some charts, identifying some setups for the next day, you're probably going to go into that next day with a bit of an edge, right? Where you might not have that same edge if you just roll into it without doing any work prior to that to kind of put yourself in a position to win. So that was our second year of accountability. Our third year is confidence, okay? And this is where it ties in with that accountability. You now have put together a very systematic approach to reading price and hopefully creating some sort of model for yourself. And, again, there are people who have not been here since 2023, and I understand that. But this is just the next progression, right? We are talking about confidence, believing in what we do. How do we believe that? Well, we need to prove it to ourselves by spending time back testing and proving that our setup or model, whichever word you want to use for it, it's pretty interchangeable, is something that will work, right? It is effective, so that we don't have that analysis paralysis. We don't have that, self-doubt holding us back. But we believe in what we're doing because we have practiced this and taken a systematic approach to develop a skill that we can have for the rest of our lives. And now, this is the whole focal point of this year. The year of 2026 is the year of execution. Now it all comes to roost. This is the payoff, right? And execution is really where it all collides. We're taking the disciplined habits, holding ourselves accountable without needing that external pat on the back. Oh, it's going to be okay, buddy. It's going to be okay, right? And moving the confidence straight into our action, right? There will be no more planning paralysis, right? No more one-day vibes where you hit big one day and then you don't believe in yourself to do it another. And no more overthinking that perfect moment, right? You will have a system in place, and that is the goal for the 2026 mentorship. So it is the year to do this damn thing. You might not think, I'm not ready yet. You will be, and you will be ready much faster than you think, okay? Because if we were to break this mentorship down based on what I have planned going into this year, at the end of the day, whether it's using the Mando model, whether it's using OddNAM, or whether it's the London Kill Zone, right? Those are the three models that I focus on the most inside of the mentorship. But even if it's something that you learn externally or outside of our given models per se, that you find very attractive to you, right? There might be one of the layers that we will go over, and there's about 10 of them. Each will have their own individual video where you can kind of start putting in the pieces to potentially even create your own model, right? That's the goal, whether it's mine, whether it's yours, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, structure is absolutely necessary for your success. Without structure, you're nothing. Okay, you're going to be taking shots from the hip. You're going to be hoping things are right. You're not going to know when to take profit. You're not going to understand when you should probably stop out on an idea. These are all little things that, in order for us to execute properly, we got to have those in the bag. That can't be something that we're just willy-nilly about. Oh, I hope this works out well. Oh, this looks okay. I think I've seen this before. We need to get to a point where we can execute with total conviction based on what we've done, prior to put us in a position to win, right? The goal here is to win. And if we are going to win, we need to be structured, we need to be disciplined, we need to have confidence, and of course we need to have accountability, right? And all of those kind of stem from putting in the work, time, and effort. And if you're listening to this at this point, you are probably at the point where you've had enough, the alerts, all of this other stuff, and you really want to learn how to do it for yourself. Because there is no better feeling when you learn how to do this for yourself and know that you have this skill for the rest of your life. Nothing's going to change here in terms of what the algorithm is. You know that you are in charge of your own destiny. You have the skills to put yourself in the best possible situation to win on a day in and day out basis, right? So now just to give a quick little rundown on what we have planned up until this point. And like I said, there is a little bit of everything for everyone. You might have a beginner, you might have somebody who's pretty seasoned, and you might have some of the most seasoned traders at this point. But inside this mentorship, there will be something for everyone. And the way that I've kind of breaking this down really up until this point has been step one, learn the concepts. So have an understanding of what an imbalance is, what market structure is, what liquidity is, what our draw on liquidity is, understanding our dealing ranges, what is premium, what is discount, what is equilibrium, right? What is higher time frame analysis? How can I use higher time frame analysis to get me to a point where I can now move into smaller time frames and act on that in a smaller time frame context? All of those little things is absolutely step one. And if you don't learn the concepts, then how are you going to be able to apply them, period, right? It's not possible. So learning the concepts and taking that first step is always important for many, right? And I'm sure everyone here is probably going to fall into one of these three categories. The second would be prove it. Okay. So you're learning all these concepts, you're learning all these fancy words. One thing that I find very important, and I try and put an emphasis on this at every time possible, is that you need to be able to learn the concepts, then prove it. Do it in hindsight, which means go back and back test and prove that what you're learning here, what you're using, can work, right? Because at the end of the day, our ultimate goal is to execute, right? The whole year is based on execution, right? We want to execute in 2026. But in order for us to be able to execute, there's something that's very important here, that we're not going to be able to do if we can't prove it, right? If we can't prove it in hindsight, how are we going to be able to prove it and anticipate price going to where we want it to go, right? Think about it that way. So we need to be able to prove it, okay? We got to go back in time. We got to back test. Oh, I see price hit that discounted imbalance and then ran from the highs. Let's go. Because that not only is going to help you in your overall understanding of the concepts, but it is also going to give you the confidence that when the lights are shining bright and it's your time to execute, you're not going to have that self-doubt. You're not going to have that fear because you put in the time and effort to see how these concepts play out on a day-to-day basis. But last but not least, we have our third and really the final, which is execution. And at this point, I will say execution, I stand by this, is the hardest. Execution is something that with time you will get better at. Putting yourselves in positions to execute properly, whether that's take profit, maybe even stop out at a certain point, that is something that really kind of starts to bring in the psychological aspect of trading. And now, as you know, if anybody's been here for a while, or anybody who's followed me for quite some time, you know that I tend to not really talk too much or put too much of a focal point on the psychological aspect of trading. And you might say, oh my gosh, are you kidding? Why don't you do that? Trading psychology is so important. My take on the matter is, if you don't understand how to read price in the first place, then your execution or your psychology doesn't matter. What does your psychology matter if you don't know when you want to take profits based on results that you've back tested, right? When price takes a higher time frame swing high, it's probably a good time to take profits, right? But you wouldn't know that if you don't know how to read price, right? You're always going to be in a state of panic or fear psychologically if you can't read price and if you don't have a game plan set before you even enter into the trade, right? So with that being said, there will be a lot of psychological aspects hit on this 2026 mentorship, and that's because I think a large portion of the group has learn the concepts, they prove it, and they can even execute some. It's just a matter of experience at that point, where you are putting yourself in good situations and then you have to manage them effectively. And it's not always going to be perfect. I'm not always perfect. And I'm going to lose again in 2026. I understand that. But it's a matter of making sure that when we do fail in terms of our analysis, it's not we don't fail, we don't blow up because our execution is poor. We do take our stop loss at the appropriate time based on things that we have proven based on the concepts, right? It is all cycling together. And this is just the overview and the big idea for what we have going on this year in terms of this mentorship. So inside of this mentorship, I'm just going to rattle through some of these, but we will talk about just the introduction of price reading concepts and what are the main components to all of my models, right? These are not going to be very specific videos because I have standalone videos for all of them. So all of the things that would go into the Mando model or the Odd Man model or even the London Kill Zone will all be brought to the stage in this video, where then we will break them down individually with liquidity, imbalances, market structure, our dealing ranges. We'll even go through some Mando model examples on each time frame, because it doesn't matter what time frame it is, it doesn't matter what ticker it is, price delivers in a very specific way, and this model is more repeatable than anything you will see on the internet. So, and then honestly, the most important part about that would be the higher time frame analysis and how you can use that higher time frame analysis to help you with your smaller time frame ideas. So, following that, we'll talk more about determining your risk based on the models. We'll talk about identifying time horizons for trades. We'll talk about time frame pairs. How can we start to incorporate time, because it is so overlooked, yet it's probably the most important thing about trading that you can incorporate into an already winning model. We talk about our layers, right? There are many, many crucial layers that we talk about, things that we can add into our thesis for a trade idea that's only going to bolster the idea, make it stronger. And those typically will have a much higher success rate as well, where you have breakers, you have turtle soup, you have relative equal highs and lows, standard deviation extensions, order blocks, inversion fair value gaps, mitigation blocks, SMT, something that we're currently dealing with inside the marketplace as I speak to you here. We'll also talk about how we can get a grading scale for our setups, right? Each setup is going to be graded at a different scale, essentially, based on what type of layers that we have with it, what's the time horizon for the trade, do we have conflicting data on multiple time frames, etc. Then we get really deep into the time component of things, where we talk about the specific times throughout the day where we would anticipate price to deliver efficiently, right? So inside Silver Bullet, macro, we'll talk about trade days versus non-trade days. We'll talk about the London Kill Zone model, much more depth there as well. We'll also talk about just entry models, pyramids. How can you have the highest bit of confirmation that we could potentially have, so that we ultimately put ourselves in a good situation? Maybe the potential risk on a trade is too big. How can we make that more narrow, right? All of those little things are going to be touched on and explained inside of this mentorship. And then last but not least, just the day-to-day grind that we're going to go through in terms of how you can bounce back after maybe a little bit of a losing streak, how you can, stay even keeled. Let's say you're winning a lot, right? You don't, and you're starting to get a little self-doubt because you know that this doesn't last forever, that you will run into a tough spot. It's only natural for that to happen. But how can we make it so that when we do run into our little ruts, we don't get sucked into them and we don't get stuck in there for too long, that it will impact our overall yearly growth, right? So with all of that being said, that is what I have planned for the 2026 mentorship. It is going to be very in-depth. There's going to be probably double the amount of videos that we did this year for the 2025 mentorship, which is 115 videos. So, we're going guns a-blazing. This is something that I think we will look back on for many years to come, and this will be a focal point for where can I start, right? I know I have the beginner's guide now, but I think the beginner's guide is going to get revamped as well as we dive deeper into this 2026 mentorship. So with all that being said, we get started next week. I hope everyone has a happy new year, and we will talk soon. When you're ready to stop playing the lottery and actually learn how to do this, come on over to Galaxy Trading for thousands of hours of educational content, weekly class sessions, live trading, and a kick-ass group of traders. The best part? Actual timestamps and receipts of our work. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you'll never go back to the way you're trading right now. See you soon.